Hello, my friends. I'm going to start out with saying, above all things, I have hope, the greatest hope, that the Lord relents upon his plans that he has for the people in this country of America. That's my hope, that it happens, because it has happened before. It happened to Nineveh. My hope is that all these ones that you hear me speaking against, because I see what they're doing, my hope is that they see what they're doing and that they turn, and that the Lord spares them, that he relents his anger and his wrath towards them, because they're storing up their own wrath that they don't realize they're storing up. And how I look at everything that happens, it's almost like a parent looking at a child and seeing them fail, seeing them just not listening to what they need to be listening to, seeing a child go the wrong way. But the only thing that I can do is speak to them and tell them myself, hey, look, you need to do it this way, or you need to do it that way. And whether they listen or not, then it becomes up to them. And I'm not saying like I'm somebody of importance and God needs me to dictate what anybody does, but I'm saying that's how I see them. I see them almost like a parent looking at a child failing. And my hope is that they all, just like Nineveh, come around to see what they do. So with that said, if we want to look into the scriptures, we know that there is a mark of the beast that's coming. And that mark, it's on your right hand or on your forehead. You cannot buy or sell lest you have it. It's essentially a one world financial rolling government entity of some sorts. There's also a religious side put onto it. There's the mark of the beast, and we know that that is purely a mark set for the time of the end. But God also marks other things. For instance, he marks the Israelites during the time of the plagues of Egypt. He says, pass over all of those who have the seal of God on their forehead, just as he does in the book of Revelations. Pass over those who have the seal of the living God on their forehead. So we know that God marks things himself. And if I were to look at the scriptures and I were to look at the events that are actually happening in the world, and I'm looking for some kind of a marking of God, and then try to figure out what that means by that marking, I want to show you what I see of this eclipse sign that everybody now is speaking about. Those people that I speak against, that I tell you that their tongues profess the Lord day and night. That's all they do is speak about Jesus. But they don't know him. They don't know anything of him. So therefore they're like the child going the wrong way. Their tongues speak him, but their hearts are far from him. That's this crowd, the rapture crowd, the tribulations crowd. There's the prepper crowd. There's all kind of different crowds amongst these people that proclaim the name of the Lord, but all of them are going down the same path, and that's the path away from safety. They're headed towards the destruction. And if I were to show you that God maybe has marked something so that we may see it, maybe it would give you an indication, like I'm beginning to see, of these days ahead. And what gives me hope, because it correlates to Jonah. And I've spoken about this before. And I hear other people throwing Jonah in the mixture of this, how it applies to us. And it very well may, but not in the way that many of them are believing. First, I want to say that I've spoken about it before, a scarlet A. A scarlet A, formerly worn by a person convicted of adultery. So we know that not even times that far ago, if a woman was found to be adulterous, she was marked with a scarlet A. It would be a branding of some sorts. It would be a rope. It would be something that she would have to wear around so that anybody that saw her knew that she was an adulterous woman. It's the scarlet A. Now, why do I bring up the scarlet A? Well, let's look at these eclipses that you hear everybody speaking about. Oh, is it going to be the day of the rapture? Oh, I'm so excited for this eclipse. Because they don't understand what an eclipse is, what it means for them. They believe it's their way out, but they have no mourning. They have no mercy. There's no heart of salvation amongst these ones that preach like this. For they say their joy is in the Lord, but they're not talking about the same Lord that I know. They're talking about a different Lord. His name might be Jesus to them, but it's not the same Jesus that I know. Because the heart of the Lord is in a house of mourning. These people celebrate it like they're drunk. Like they see these signs of destruction all over the world approaching us, and all they can do is be merry and cheerful and glad and eat and drink. There's no mourning. There's no standing in the gap. There's no sorrows. There's only thinking of themselves. And whenever you see this A, branding, marking, specifically the United States of America, there is no A made by 3 sun eclipses over the period of 7 years that lands anywhere else other than right here in the continent of North America, and specifically only in America. As you see, the A misses Canada and misses Mexico. It is specifically over the United States of America, marked by God with a scarlet A, because it's 3 solar eclipses, sun, red, scarlet, and also the sins of the people. Remember in the Old Testament where though your sins may be red as scarlet, they shall be made white as wool, and this is what gives me hope. And it also applies to Nineveh in the days of Jonah. Because we see God has marked America with a scarlet A. You can take whatever interpretation you want of it, but what I do is apply what I see to the word that I'm given and try to understand it, which I find out this is exactly what the Essenes did 2,000, 2,500 years ago. They knew when the Messiah was coming. They knew where he was going to be born. They knew when to expect it. Why? Because they saw the signs of their day, applying the word to it. They understood, hey, this is going to take place here. The Messiah is going to be born here, and this is when we should expect him. As if I see God branding, giving a sign, the sign of Jonah, as I'll explain, perhaps, over the United States of America, what do I then do with that sign to try to understand it? Well, since it's in an A, and since it's a sun period of sun eclipses, making it scarlet A, what else is in scarlet whenever we're looking at the times of the end? And we know to look at the times of the end because of everything written in Matthew 24 and Luke 21 and Mark 13 and the rest of Revelation. We know we're living in that final season. We know we're there. So all I need to do then is find that scarlet marking somewhere in the book of Revelation, and I should be able to tell you from that what to expect. And let's go into this. Go here. Babylon, the prostitute on the beast, and we're going to go to Revelation 17. One of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits by many waters. With her, the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her adulteries." Now, you understand how this fallen church is right now. They're intoxicated. They're drunk. Then the angel carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and there I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. Now think about this. We see something marked by God as a scarlet beast. Where else do we see a beast? In Revelation 13. The beast of the sea and the beast of the earth. And here we see a beast that is decorated and marked in scarlet. And we see a woman sitting on top of it. So the beast, we can reason, is the land. And the people within that land, we can reason, are the ones who are sitting on top of the beast. And we know later on in these scriptures that it's also a city, as we're explained by the angel. So we know this scarlet A is marking the United States of America. We know the people within the United States of America are responsible for all of these doctrines that have gone all over the world that have made people twice the child of hell as we are. Because we were apostate while we were teaching them. We were spreading the gospel, but we were also spreading other things. And therein lies the whole problem. It's the yeast that has contaminated the whole batch. and you look at America and its importance in the world, there is nobody else, nothing else, that could be Mystery Babylon, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth, other than America. Because if we're looking at the right sign, we're looking at the right time, there is none other like America in the world. For she buys the goods and the products of everybody on the planet. And she passes everything she has to everybody. Everybody wants to be in her. At least they used to, even up to a couple years ago. Now it's starting to change a little bit. But America's where it's at. She is the center of the world to the people living in this world. She has all the luxuries. She has everything exactly as described as her. Now, they will say, well, no, it's Rome. We're talking about Rome here. Or no, it's this. No, it's that. Okay, well, if you're going to say it's Rome, then you have to show how Rome is going to be applicable to the entire world. That if it's destroyed, the world suddenly stops. Which, if Rome was destroyed today, I hate to say it, but nobody would even notice barely. It would be like nothing happening. And that's not a knock on Rome, it's just their positioning within the world. Rome is not in the power that America is. So it makes sense when you look at it like that. If Rome got wiped off the map right this second, nobody in America would feel it at all. People would feel it as they're close to Rome, but even then, it's not to the same effect as if America got wiped off the map. So that's how you know it can't be Rome. But it doesn't mean that Rome isn't included in America, because if you know what America is, she is the resurrection of Rome. She was what was, but now is not, but then comes again, the same as she gave birth to Israel, which was, but then is not, and then now is again. You notice the pattern here that America has done in the scriptures. She is that scarlet beast, the only one that is capable in this period of time that we're looking at of fulfilling Revelation 17 and 18. It is her. And she has been marked by this third eclipse that's coming this April 8th with a scarlet A. Scarlet beast, the scarlet A. And then you talk about the people that live within America that have spread their doctrines all over the world. You have the crowd on the internet. Okay, so I'm going to some of these videos now, some of these so-called teachers. They're literally beginning to all speak like each other, and they're all saying the same information, and they're all doing the same exact things. Do you know why? Because this is how the economy is run in America. It's an economy of economics where if there is a need, somebody will be there to fill that need for a price, just like I've spoken of a couple of videos ago. It is a free market society. And what happens is the same way in free market is happening amongst all of the so-called people of God right now. They're all jumping in on that because they see a profit to be had by it. But the market has slowly saturated till now you find it all over the place. And remember what Jesus said, they will be buying and selling. Remember the foolish virgins, the ones who had to go to town and buy more oil. Do you know why movies are terrible in 2024 and video games are terrible in 2024? Because it's all rehashed of everything from 30 years ago. And it's not as good as it was 30 years ago. It's sequels and prequels and everything else. There's no more original ideas, and that's the same thing you see happening within the fallen apostate church. There is a market, but the market is beginning to dwindle because it's being saturated. And that's why many of them begin losing their viewers and everything else, because the market's saturated. They can just go somewhere else and trade it. Just like how whenever a product first comes out and it's patented, there's only one company that's profiting off of it. But then after the patent wears out, then suddenly 15 other companies start producing the same product and start producing it for a lot cheaper. Suddenly you have market saturation, and that first company that came up with the idea, their profits are then gone. It's the same thing that I see happening within this apostate church. And that's why Jesus likens everything to buying and selling, and how you can see them by this. So the woman who sits upon the beast, the scarlet beast, the harlot church, I have hope for her. I have great hope for her that she will see what she is doing. And I'll explain now why I have hope for her. Because if you go into the days of Jonah and what happened with Nineveh, Whenever God commanded Jonah to go to Nineveh and say that in 40 days this land will be overthrown, it's interesting the word overthrown can also mean changed, altered. Doesn't necessarily mean destroyed. And we know that the angel is talking about a great city whenever he is talking about the destruction. And the physical, you can just kind of look at what the picture that John saw. It looks like the Statue of Liberty. It looks like New York City. So there is destruction guaranteed coming to New York City. But what does Jesus say before that in Revelation 18? Come out of her, my people. And this is where my hope comes in. That they, like the Ninevites, may also see themselves and be in their sackcloth and ashes and mourning by the time that overthrowing comes, so that they're not destroyed like New York City's going to be, but that they're going to be changed in a twinkling of an eye. But what would have to happen between now and then in order for this to happen? Because they're so far from God, they have no idea what they're doing at all right now. Their doctrines are not sound. They don't know his heart. There's nothing there. It's just like a bunch of zombies repeating the same thing that the other ones are replaying. What would have to happen between now and the destruction, in order for them to really change their hearts? What would have to happen? Well, this goes to the sign of Jonah, which is given to an adulterous and wicked generation. And I used to see this, and I still do, as the Great Tribulations, 3.5 years in the belly of the beast, darkness. But there's something that also comes before that. So you have the scarlet beast of Revelation 17 marked over the United States of America come April 8th. And you have the story of Jonah and Nineveh. So when Jonah gets to Nineveh, and he proclaims, in 40 days you're going to be overthrown, Nineveh turns and repents. That means something happened, that when Jonah was there teaching, they were willing and ready to listen. And you see on my screen here the Assyrian eclipse. Basically, there's the thought that this eclipse occurred over Nineveh, which they worship the sun. And when Jonah stepped off because of this eclipse, they were willing to listen because they saw the darkness. And here's somebody talking about, God is going to overthrow them. We better change our ways. Look, the sky is dark. And I believe that very well could be the case. That the reason they were so eager to listen was because of the eclipse. But not just the eclipse. Whenever you read about what was actually happening also to Assyria at that time, there were a bunch of other things going on. Let's see here. Ancient cultures, including Assyria, viewed eclipses as omens of imminent destruction, and the empire was in chaos at this time, struggling with revolts and famines and 2 separate outbreaks of plague. Look, we just saw this Alaska pox pop up, and we saw an actual plague pop up. I believe it was in Oregon. You see these things. You had COVID and all these other things that are happening. You have all the chaos within the political parties. You have a people right now who are to the point of breaking, but they haven't broken yet. But if there's 1 or 2 serious events that plays out, you're going to put this whole country to a point of break. And I believe if this is the scarlet beast sign that we are looking of Revelation 17, that between now and April, there's going to be some breaking going on within this country. People are going to be eager to hear a word about everything being overthrown and God is in control. Whenever they realize that they're not escaping at all, they're tied to the beast to some extent, but that God will rescue them if they come out of her, perhaps destruction for them in due season, in due time, is a good thing as far as they're concerned, as we know this has happened repeatedly to Israel over time. When Israel got too far into their pride, into their self-righteousness, what did God do? God gave them warnings over and over again, eventually coming to where he had to take away from them things that they were doing and things that they could do, to give the very last warnings that destruction was coming to them. This is your very last chance. And if we look at that eclipse that's coming on April 8th, that's almost like the last warning God is going to give. It's like Jonah getting off of the boat at the same time that the eclipse is going over, and there's already all this chaos happening within America. So much so that when the eclipse comes, people are willing then to mourn, to weep over what we are doing, over the violence and everything else that we have done, that we have allowed to happen in this country. And people will turn to God at that time, their hearts to Him, not their mouth, and then they will walk with Him. And the most interesting thing about the timing of this, you place Jonah roughly in the same time, same place as the eclipse is then. Well, you have April 8th marking the adulterous A over the scarlet beast. And then if you count 40 days after that, what does that bring us down to? That would be May 19th after 40 days pass. What is May 19th? Pentecost. And traditionally, if you take a look at Pentecost, I just typed in, just so you can see, generally it is a holiday marked in liturgical churches. Because the holiday's liturgical color is red to symbolize the apostles' tongues of fire and also the blood of martyrs. Sometimes Christians will dress in red or decorate churches with red. Many churches hold baptisms and confirmation on that day as well. Just imagine so much devastation and destruction and so many terrible things occur in America up to the point and at and after that eclipse, that 40 days later on Pentecost, every single person of God left in this country is decorated in red, saying, "My Lord, we have sinned against you. We are a filthy, scarlet, harlot people. Lord, have mercy on us." Perhaps there is hope that they will be able to see themselves in turn because of the devastation that we will go through over the next few months. And then on that day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit is poured out like a wine to those who have recognized what is happening and turned from what they were doing. Just imagine that. They always talk about a revival. But then imagine on that day, on May 19th, on Pentecost, every one of the churches are dressed in red, signifying that they recognize that they're unworthy, that they're a harlot, that they've played the harlot for the whole world, that they've spread lies to everybody. And all this devastation God is sending us because we have sinned against Him. We have gone after other gods, and we have built a people that call themselves Israel in His name and declared He did it. We have done all of these things. We will sit here in scarlet, which is our sackcloth, until the Lord comes back to us. And in that day, like what happened to Nineveh, they are overthrown, as in changed in the twinkling of an eye. And the best part about this is, if this is correct, if the marking is that scarlet A, if these do mean this with the eclipse, we will see over the next few months, we will see what the days of Nineveh saw, and it will be devastating. And people will walk away from the faith because of what they're going through. The rapture you said was coming, there is no rapture, and we're still here in all of these troubles, and where's God? You will see people fall and depart from the faith at that time because the devastation will be so great over the next few months, that by the time Pentecost comes, the bride knows she's a scarlet. And though her sins may be red as scarlet, in that day the Lord shall make them white as wool. This is my hope. And we don't have long to wait for this one, as if this is correct, we will see a major uptick between now and this eclipse in disastrous events across America. And then 40 days later, on Pentecost, we may see the Lord, we may see a revival, who knows? But I do know that if we all turn our hearts back towards Him, we will move mountains. God bless.